All right, Jesse. Well, thank you for the time, man. Well, before going into jiu-jitsu and all what you do, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, my background. Well, I work with foundation training. That's what brought myself into the life of Ty and Cade Ruotolo. My background is as a firefighter. I was a firefighter in city of Orlando for 17 years,
Wow.
and was doing all things strength and conditioning, performance training, and then I had an injury, and I actually had an injury in jujitsu. And so a friend of mine, a gentleman named Dr. Eric Goodman, was like, "Come out to Cali, let me help you rehab the knee." And that was my exposure to foundation training, and it blew my mind. I was trembling and shaking with just my body weight, and I had to learn more. Fast forward, 7 8 years now, and I'm working for foundation training. I left the fire service, never thought that would happen, and headed up the company with the doc. And so been working on spreading this work around the world and try to help people get out of chronic pain and optimize the way they use their body to feel their best.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Actually, I'm trying to prevent the knee surgery, so I'm gonna go
Mm.
with. I just got shot stem cells on my knee, and I'm gonna try to rehab it because they told me it wasn't that bad because I already had surgery on this knee, so it would be
Okay.
my second. And I'm like, man, I don't want to go through the whole thing again, So
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So for what I see, you guys do a lot of things with your own weight, right?
Yes, sir. A lot of body weight, a lot of self tensioning.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because for example, in ADCC, I was taking pictures and I saw Ty and Kate doing postures like this and staying, rigid and all of that, and I was like, what are they doing? Are they focusing somehow? Is this the
Mm.
type of meditation? And tell us a little bit about that. So, uh, what's going on right there?
Okay. What's going on? So, from the outside looking in, you see these static positions like you described, right? We're making this crazy thing with our hands. We're putting ourselves in very specific postures. And what we're doing is we're working to align the body and tension and leverage deep postural muscles. We're putting ourselves in very specific positions to essentially balance the structure, balance the way the muscles are pulling on the frame, and then recruiting as many as we can all at once. So we train the body to learn how to bring as many muscles into the equation all at the same time so that the body works as a system. We're also balancing kind of the chronic breakdowns we see in people's posture, whether that's from day to day life or from training a lot of fighting or surfing, whatever your sport is. And so as people learn the exercises, they go, "Oh, it looks like yoga. I can do that." And then you guide them a little bit, and suddenly they're just going. They have this look of, "Oh shit," and then people start to feel it and realize that there's so many more things happening. For the brothers, it was really I came in to help them get stronger. These positions help you kind of do a couple things with your muscles, primarily lengthen things out while you're creating tension, while you're recruiting as many muscle fibers as you can, which ultimately is one of the few ways we can strengthen the body is you turn up this ability to recruit more and more muscle fiber, more and more tension behind everything you do. But we do it in a very lengthened out state where a lot of jujitsu is compressing and collapsing in. So we kind of counterbalance the chronic positions of the sport. We lengthen the muscles out so they can contract optimally, allowing you to then recruit more muscle, produce more force, balance the pulls on the frame, support the joints, support the neck, make more space for breathing, align, prime the whole body. It's very overwhelming for the new person because there's so many things to think about. But we find after that first, second, third week, people really start to go, oh shit, I feel different. Oh, I move different. Oh, I'm feeling stronger. And the best story I can give you for anybody that's kind of like, I was only working with Ty, and we started kind of on a couple random times on Zoom, a couple times we linked up in Costa Rica around surfing, trained a little bit, and then he was just doing it in his own time to the best he could do. And he was doing like two of the exercises. And then we all linked up in Huntington Beach. And by we all, it started Cade and I and I'm sorry, Ty and I. And then we're training at Ruka. Cade comes walking in, my first introduction to Cade. And he's like, bro, it's so great to meet you. I got to start training. I can feel a difference in Ty. his darces are tighter, his chokes, it's getting a little bit more difficult to get him down. I feel a difference. And I looked at him, I go, there's no better testimonial to me than the guy that's fought you his entire life going, I feel a difference. I need to learn this. Because before it, like everybody else, Kate was like, what Ty's losing his mind with his goofy shit he's doing. So, I tell everybody is if it's easy, you're doing something wrong. You need a little guidance.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because I've done a little bit of those. I mean, not the same, but those tense positions. And when you look at them, looks kind of easy because you're not grabbing a 100-pound kettlebell or something like that. But it's really difficult, and you start sweating, and you're like, "Oh shit, what's going on?" So, for example, I've seen that people who think they want to get stronger, they need to lift weights. But I know that when you lift weights, a regular gym guy, he's gonna do biceps one day, he's gonna do legs another day, back, chest. What's the main difference about you doing it like everything together with those postures and all of that than somebody that's wants to grow the muscle? But I mean, I've in jiu-jitsu sometimes you see guys like really buff, but they're not that strong.
Yeah, well, that's the age old issue in what we know as modern training is what you describe as bodybuilding. What you
Yeah.
describe and the mistake we make, and I was in this generation and I learned it the hard way as well as a fireman, is that we grow up in a sport that is designed to make you look aesthetically pleasing. And so you break the body into segments, you break it into pieces, but the body doesn't operate that way. It operates as a system. We have a muscular system, a neuromuscular system, a nervous system, a skeletal system. So when we start breaking the body into pieces, you, in a way, detrain the body's ability to work as one. And
Yeah.
so what I look at is with foundation training, and you're doing a couple things, but teaching the body to work as a system for one, you become more efficient. Your ability to recruit as many muscles as possible through foundation, what I tell all my athletes is that we learn to absorb force. You're training your body to better absorb force. So whether it's then we move our weights, and I'll touch on the right kind of training as I would see it with weights, but then when we move our weights or we do jujitsu, you're able to produce more force. So the better
Yeah.
we absorb, the better we can produce force. And so with foundation training, like I said, there's adjustments. We're putting the limbs, the lower limbs, most, not all, most exercises into degrees of internal rotation. And then we're going into some isometrics to recruit what would be called your medial chain muscles, muscled up the inner thighs, but we're working on points of contact with the feet to make sure the feet are connected and rooting. That's our base. But then we balance that with external rotation in the upper body. We're opening up the palms. We're aligning posture. So it's very much a corrective exercise to
Yeah.
bring balance to the frame so that you're not just using the muscles that you basically default to or have overtrained or are really good at getting, but then you learn to get all the other ones that have been neglected. Now,
Yeah.
most of my athletes, we're going to do a lot of foundation, and then we're going to go into some other exercises going to make you use all of the system. Most people, I'd say, we can get away with really good kettlebell swings. We can get away with a good deadlift. I love a good, strong overhead press. If those things cause you pain, though, then I go, okay, we're throwing this to the wayside. Maybe it's, a proper squat. Okay, hey, the barbell doesn't work on your back. We're going to go into single leg squats or reverse lunges. Maybe we're super sensitive. We're going to go into just foundation. We're going to put blood flow restriction bands on. We're going to be very calculated. I'm really looking into other steady state isometric training, but finding the right stuff and recognizing that the gym is meant to be an adjunct to make you better at other things in life. It's not meant to, well, at least in my version, unless, hey, you're a bodybuilder or your goal is to aesthetically look great. Awesome. Live in the gym. But if we want to be better at our sport, the gym should be supporting it, not breaking you down or taking away from it. And I think it's the same for all of life.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting what you're saying because opening the body because in jiu-jitsu we curve a lot
Mm.
when we're wrestling, so it's interesting that we try to work on the opposite, right, to get a better a better structure. And going a little bit with the Ruotolo brothers, there's all this beef that, fighting Gordon and all of that. Actually, it was funny because I was telling my friend after the event, we were going to the car, and I was like, the guy that can beat Gordon is gonna be Ty, but give him a couple of years, give him 2 3 years. He's still a teenager. He doesn't have the body yet. And he saw it first, and he was like, look what you said. But I'm like, oh man, I mean, what's the plan? I know that they're natural. What's the plan without roids to get big? Because he has the ability, he has the cardio, but we know strength matters. And I know Gordon, he's way bigger. And people say, oh, he's gonna handle him like a kid and all of that. But what's the plan to get him stronger in months? Let's say that Gordon accepts the fight in 6 months. What's going to be the plan?
The amount of work required naturally, everybody knows it. Steroids allows you to train more often, more intensely, recover faster. Like that's the game.
Yeah.
Without that in the equation, the game is diet is of utmost importance. The sleep is of utmost importance. Those are our top. We've had some pretty in-depth talks on, are we doing this? And so the plan is a lot of foundation training, a lot of integration of muscle chains, and then the right kind of strength training. And watching Ty's frame, how he responds, like his body wants to grow. I've seen guys touch weights, and it's like there's a lot of work to it. And then other people, I see him touch weights and they just explode. Ty's got a frame that right away is like, bro, you're not going to have a hard time putting size on. You're not going to have a hard time putting strength on. And the strength that we're going to put on you is the kind of strength that what I'd say was when I was firefighting and I started training the right way, immediately everything on the job got easier. I'm not a huge guy. I'm 5'8". I looked very aesthetically pleasing. And I see this with a lot of fighters. The training I look at, I'm going like, man, if that guy trained right, the difference that they would have. And that's really what I look at with Ty is, you know, is 100% embodying the idea that this is. I told him is like, look, bro, this is the tale of all times. It's the Rocky versus the Russian, right? It's it's truly a inspiring path that you're on. We just got to make sure we do everything right. So a lot of foundation, consistent strength training, moving a barbell. For the next few months, we're going to be hitting the barbell pretty hard. Ty's going to have some fights, so that's going to throw off things. We have to adjust fire accordingly. But being absolute professionals, it's a lot of little things adding up. And I'll say the barbell days are going to be the absolute focus, and then the diet and the sleep around it. There's no shortcut. Strength to build it truly takes time. Conditioning, you can always drop in and start hyper focus, 3 to 6 weeks out and taper. So I'm not too worried about that. But right now it's, I tell Ty, like, we got to put size on your frame, and
Yeah.
size, but with size, absolute strength. So believe it or not, there'll be a ton of barbell, but there's also going to be still a ton of just the body weight isometrics.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, they're big. I mean, I've seen them in Atos, and they kind of grew fast, like in a year. Like they got really big. So I believe he does have the frame. So basically they're gonna separate a little bit more on the size. In this case, Cade, he has a belt for 170, and Ty wants to go up, so there's gonna be a bigger separation. Because if Ty wants to do, let's say, another fight with somebody lighter, the plan has to change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's talks of a fight for Ty before the year's over, and so if that comes in, he's fighting at 170. Then for me, it's not an issue for him to cut. Like he'll have strength, no matter what, he's going to bring strength over every time. But like ADCC, I want to say probably 4 weeks out from ADCC, Ty was at 200 pounds, and that was us kind of playing. Like they're new to all of the barbell, the kettlebell. We spend a lot of time. The beauty of foundation training is that we can hyper focus, hyper cue coaching and direct to where when they get on the barbell, I don't have to coach them as much. The patterns are there. So we're still, all of that is very new to them. So for me, I can't injure them. I need to make sure everything is hyper detailed. So when we were 4 weeks out from ADCC, he was at 200 pounds, barely scratching the surface on the barbell. So that's why I'm going, you're going to blow up. But, if he has a fight before the year's over, then we do have to halt. And I looked at it and said, 3 weeks out, we'll shift gears. We can pick up where we left off, but that will adjust, everything with Gordon. But, no matter what, I look at it and go, if they fight in February, March, or April, Ty will be ready. Would I rather be the summer? Sure. But Ty's ready to go. Like he's so amped on this already, and that's what I said. He believes it. The win is there. I believe in their skill. I believe in their talent. I believe in the ability to build them up in strength as the ultimate equalizer. So it could be a pretty amazing fight one way or the other.
Oh, of course, of course. There was a little interview before the fight of Kate against the Russian, and he was saying that they already had pressure going into the fight when they were like 13, 14 years old. Now it's different, and they say they don't overtrain. Sometimes people believe that if you want to be a champion, you have to train 3 times a day and just sleep and go to the limit. How do you guys manage not to overtrain going into a fight? I
Hmm.
mean, do you make
It's
like a plan? Do you see him every morning and you say like, "Oh, he looks tired," or how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's extremely tough. Jiu-jitsu is an extremely tough one. I'd say fortunately, Ty and Kate have such an amazing team around them. Like no one sees it, but like their mom is a warrior, their dad's a warrior, and that family is their sister.
Yeah.
And so they've had the support, and I check in with their parents all the time. Like when I started working with them, I immediately had talks with everybody. And so when it comes to the actual overtraining, I looked to guidance from them, and then I just essentially ADCC was like, I need to be on top of you guys. I need to see what's going on, and you know, I had to shift gears right away because at first the irritations that are inevitable with that kind of intense training, well, that's where the foundation training came in. We ramped up, so we actually held off on any strength training with barbells or equipment. We had to align and get them going. So then honestly, utilizing more foundation training was the best tool we had to actually help them from overtraining because we're able to balance their bodies out. Fortunately, when that kind of work, there's not a lot of muscle trauma like there is when you're moving weights around. So we're still getting stronger, but balancing the load and then watching. I watched them very closely. I found, especially going to ADCC, um, Mondays after their morning Atos training, which was extremely intense, we were grabbing lunch and going in for acupuncture. And fortunately, we have a amazing acupuncturist named Dr. Lorena Lee in San Diego, just over the border.
Hmm.
And so she was working on the boys pretty much once a week after intense training, and then usually I think it would be there. We were training probably 4 days a week, and then just listening to their bodies. If they were looking beat up, if they were really feeling off, that was where I would come in and say, okay, we're postponing this afternoon's workout. We're not, we're going to forego. We'd shift gears, and making a point. The second after like a Thursday. So Monday acupuncture. Tuesday they have another jujitsu training. We were kind of resting on Wednesday. Thursday another really intense training. We would get in and see one of our docs over here that was in NorCal, San Diego, and he would basically do some tissue work, alignment work, chiropractor, really amazing guy, Dr. Beret, and he would just kind of make sure everything was good. So going into Friday's training, so for them that was a very new world of like this much treatment, and then they were kind of like, is all this necessary? And going, they would see like, okay, we're speeding up recovery so we can get into the next day. And everything again, like they've got an awesome doctor in Newport, Dr. G, who guided everything for us. We were seeing him once a week. I was going up there and, this is me steering the ship of like doctors, hey, I want their input. Where are we at? What are we doing? Dr. G would give me, hey, focus on X, Y, and Z. And I would apply foundation training very specifically towards what the doctor was seeing areas for me to, hey, focus on the thoracic spine a little bit more. Hey, low back, right side, focus on these glutes and these muscles. So as a foundation instructor, I can gear the work. So
Yeah.
that's what I say is kind of like the ace in the pocket for me and for them, is that foundation training is both performance as well as injury
Rehab.
recovery, chronic pain management.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Talking about that, I know that you already work with the legend Hickson Gracie.
Did some work.
Tell us a little bit of that, because we knew that he had really bad back issues, that he was saying he couldn't even roll. I believe he got better. You guys worked together. Tell us a little bit of that.
Yeah, to make a long story short, he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and had talked about the state his back was in. And if you listen to him, it was a state of acceptance, and that the warrior mindset of accepting where he's at. And he does a lot of meditation now, and he can't go like he wants to. A foundation training instructor named Jackson Fortunato calls me up and is like, man, we got to get Hickson. And he has a Gracie school in Texas. And so he hit on Gracie and was like, look, we need to get Hickson foundation training. Managed to get it connected. They asked me, Hickson and I got on the phone. Hickson got on the phone with Dr. Goodman, had a talk. I got on the phone with Hickson, pretty much packed a bag, flew out the next day for LA, and like, let me come expose you to it. Hickson's like, all right, I'll check it out. And day one, we eased in. He was in basically it seemed that he couldn't walk the dog without having to stop and try to stretch his way out of pain. Couldn't stand around for long periods. Wasn't really getting a whole lot of sleep. Rolling wasn't really a thing. And so, we started very gently going in the path I take with someone in chronic pain, a case like that where his doctors had pretty much said, your only option surgery. Pain is something you're gonna have to learn to deal with. And so we started doing some work. Day 1 and 2, we did morning, afternoon, both days. He was always welcoming, polite, but was just kind of closed off. Would show up and go, here's a progress report. I was walking my dog. Normally I can't walk him for more than 5 minutes before I started having a lot of pain that I try to stretch. And I did the breathing you told me to do, and the pain went away, which is nice. Day 2, working on something, similar report. I did something you showed me, the pain went away, which was nice. Day 3, I show up and he's riding a skateboard in the parking lot. And I was like, kind of stopped and filmed for a moment because I'm just going, well, this is a good sign. And he just says, brother, you're changing my life. Like I'm now starting to see most people that have come to me, offered to help me. It would last an hour or two, or maybe a day, or it made me worse and would set me back by weeks in pain. I'm starting to see what you're showing me, and that I have the ability to apply. And we kept going. And started getting to a point where next thing I know, he'd come out of weekend, he'd come out of an exercise and he's testing it and he's dropping down, he's doing his movements that he does, he's kicking walls, and I'm just, oh shit, and it was just it was like I felt like I was watching somebody aging in reverse. And I was watching someone realize, I'm not, and I told him, like, I'm not fixing your spine. What I'm doing is we're retraining the way your body's holding itself. We're retraining the way the muscles support and stabilize so that they're absorbing and taking up the space up and down your spine and absorbing so that they're protecting your spine as opposed to you being collapsed with the hips tucked under and the shoulders rounded. And that made a lot of sense to him. And so he gave us an amazing testimonial. He says, I'll do this work every day, my brother. From here, I've got it. That's Master Hickson Gracie. I respectfully say, yes, sir. I'll check in with you always. But otherwise, I will leave you to do your world and let me know if you ever need my help. And so when I bug him, he's like, I'm great, brother. Thanks for checking in. and I leave it at that. I see videos and shots of him training, so I'm assuming life is good. Um,
Yeah.
but that's the way it goes for a lot of people with foundation. They find us when they feel like there's no other option. But as things are growing, which is only done organically, but as things are growing, more and more people are going, holy shit, this is changing my life. And we heard that story so many times now that I encourage people to go onto our streaming site and do 2 weeks, apply it. But there's no like the natural path, right? There's no shortcut. You have to do the work. And if you're willing to show up every day and do it, you're going to see changes. And like Ty's like, do I get a stripe on my white belt? You know, as he's doing more and more foundation training. And he made a
Yeah.
fix on his brother when we were training in Malaysia. Our mornings in Malaysia, we'd get up and we'd go and do some fasted foundation training and just get the heart rate moving, get the muscles on. And Ty was fixing his brother in some areas that were what we call where his brother's pattern was going into compression, right? And Ty was fixing it, and I was like, bro, and I was showing them, I was like, this is amazing. Watch what you did to your brother, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, do I get a stripe on my belt and my foundation belt? I was like, absolutely. So I love the passion that they both have for the work beyond just the performance side.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool to hear. So, for the people that, where can they get a hold of you or your team if they want to get to know more?
Yeah. Foundationtraining.com is a great informational site. But what I say for everybody is there's a amazing quote from Wim Hof is feeling is understanding. Go to ftstreaming.com and do 2 weeks for free, but do it every day and start to feel what these exercises are like. I've got 3 workouts with Ty and Kay that are going up on there very soon. But going to that site, doing it every day, put in the code Coach J, it's going to give you 10% off, and treat it like a lifestyle habit, and as you go along, just like anybody who started early days of any martial art is the more you do it, you're going to start to unlock these things and you start making connections that surprise you. And that's kind of the journey with it. So Coach J, Instagram, foundationtrain.com, Coach J Salas on Instagram. And I'm overall pretty good about answering questions. And we do have, we're going to have a couple of our Spanish speaking instructors teaching workouts pretty soon that those should be going on our streaming site before the year is over. So excited to get some of those on there. We have Portuguese translation. But like I said, we're a small team. It's been all organic. But Dr. Goodman's got 3 books on his method, so finding one of those will, really help you have an understanding of what he's created.
Awesome. Awesome. That's really interesting. And I know we can go for hours right here, but I know you have stuff to do. So I want to thank you for the time. And awesome, man. Thanks for sharing all the knowledge and all of that. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, brother. Really enjoyed it.
All the time people come up and say, hey Bruce, are you really that good? I said, well, if I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting.